Hello, students. It's nice to see you. Thank you for joining me for episode 27 of Max Sensei's online English lesson. I hope you've had a great week. You've been enjoying yourself and you've been having fun doing something inside because Tsuyu is here. The rainy season has come and it's raining almost every day. I know rain is very important to help nature. The plants can grow, the flowers can get enough rain to bloom. But man, Tsuyu, it's so rainy. Can't do anything outside. So many events were canceled and so on. But I've been staying inside. I've been watching movies, and I watched a really interesting movie, and I wanted to tell you guys about it today. The movie is called Hidden Figures, and it's about three African American women and their impact on NASA and the space program. And so it's a true story, and it's an incredible story. So I wrote today's article based on the real life of these women and talking about the movie. So I really recommend this movie. Please go watch it if you have the opportunity. I think you can find the DVD at a video rental store, maybe even a library. It came out a few years ago, and you won't regret it. It's a great movie. It's a really powerful story, it's amazing. So I really recommend it. It's called Hidden Figures, and it's about mathematics, mathematicians, and how amazing they are in figuring out the math of space, about sending a rocket to outer space. So that's today's article. Let's get started, shall we? So today is called Hidden Figures, How African American Women Helped Change NASA. And I'm going to start reading now, so please follow along. This week, we are going to look at the amazing story of the African American women who helped NASA send their first manned rocket into space and have it return safely. But before we talk about them, we have to first understand the history of the space race between the USA and Russia. Following World War II, there was a race to develop weapons and superior technology between the two countries. This evolved into a race to see who could master superior spaceflight capabilities. Russia was the first to send up their satellite and the first man in space. The USA saw this as a very big defeat, and NASA was doing everything they could to send a man into space. This challenge was not only physical, building safe rockets and space capsules, but also theoretical, solving mathematical formulas to make sure the science and physics were accurate in sending a ship into space and having it return safely. NASA was facing two challenges: making the rocket ship safe and making sure the math was accurate for a space flight. So it was up to the genius scientists and engineers at NASA to figure out these challenges. Inside NASA, there was a branch of African American mathematicians who were very good at computing numbers. Among them was a woman named Katherine Johnson, who was considered far beyond genius in mathematics. At that time, NASA had separate buildings for blacks, including separate bathrooms and eating areas. However, because Katherine was so good at math, she was invited into the special group called the Space Task Group. She was the first black woman to join, but she was faced with many hardships. Her white male colleagues dismissed her and didn't think she was good enough. They didn't let her share their coffee, and she had to travel over 800 meters to another building to use a black bathroom. But despite her hardships, she never gave up. She worked very hard and sometimes even put pressure on her male colleagues to listen to her ideas. Her boss, Al Harrison, eventually started to pay attention to her and realized her incredible skill in mathematics. She started receiving respect among her coworkers, and they would sometimes ask her advice on certain difficult mathematical problems. Eventually, it would be her who figured out the difficult formulas that NASA used to send the first man into space and bring him back safely. Many years later, in 2015, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is a medal awarded to people who made enormous contributions to the United States. In 2016, NASA named a building after her to honor her efforts in space travel. She suffered extreme discrimination, but she was determined to make a difference, and she believed she could change things. She wasn't the only black woman at NASA. There were others. Mary Jackson worked in the engineering department and worked very hard to become NASA's first female engineer. At that time, black people couldn't go to university in her state, so she had to get special permission from the court to enter a white school to take classes in order to enter engineering school. She worked very hard and earned the respect and admiration of other engineers. She helped build the space capsule that the first American man rode into space. Finally, Dorothy Vaughn, a black woman who helped manage the other African American mathematicians. She found out that NASA was installing IBM computers to do math. And so she studied computer code in her free time so that she could lead her team to control the computers when that time came. Although at that time, black people were not allowed to be supervisors in NASA, she was the only one at NASA who knew the computer codes and therefore became the first black female supervisor at NASA. All these women faced discrimination for being black in a world where only white men were successful in America. But they not only faced discrimination for being black, but also for being women. At that time, they were criticized for being women that were good at math or science. But these strong women didn't let that stop them, and they went on to make great accomplishments. The space race was ultimately won by the USA for being the first country to step foot on the moon. And it was won because of the help of these brave African American women who didn't back down or give up, but fought hard for their country. All right, guys. That was the article for today. I want to talk about just a couple things in the article to help explain things a little clearer. So first, at the end, I talked about Dorothy Vaughn. Dorothy Vaughn was the black woman who became a supervisor at NASA because she was studying computer code in her free time. And this was in the movie. It shows Dorothy Vaughn going to a library because she wants to rent the book that explains the computer code. But the library was split into black people only, white people only. And so in the black section, they didn't have this book. It was only in the white section. And so, she went over to the white people section to find the book. And while she was looking at the book, a librarian, someone who worked at the library, that she came in and said, sorry, you're in the wrong section. You have to go back to the black people section. She said, I'm sorry, but they didn't have this book in the black people section. And the woman says, well, then you can't read it. I'm sorry, And Dorothy was pretty upset. Of course, anybody would be upset. She's trying to study. And then the security guard came, and the security guard kicked her out of the library. In the movie, I don't know if this happened in real life. In the movie, she actually stole the book so she could study. So, like, her kids asked her, like, did you steal that book? And she said, sometimes you have to, fight for your rights or something like that. But I think she said, I pay taxes, so this book is rightfully mine, so it's not considered stealing. Now, of course, that's probably not correct. She stole the book, but I understand she was frustrated. She wanted to study. She wanted to build her knowledge of the computer code. I think the main point is, like, all of these women, they did so many extra things outside of work. Dorothy Vaughn studied the computer code because she was trying to build a future for African American women at NASA. Mary Jackson was fighting really hard to go to school to study engineering because she wanted to be an engineer. And I mean, Katherine Johnson, she was incredibly busy in that special rocket group, the space task group. So, I mean, she didn't really do extra stuff outside of school, at least in the movie. But, I mean, she's a genius who worked really hard, and she, was writing papers. It was really interesting, actually. She's writing papers in the movie, and when it asks for the author of this paper, she had to write her male co-worker's name because women can't author math papers at NASA. It was just a rule. And women couldn't join these meetings either. Only men could join. So she was fighting not only discrimination for being black, but also discrimination for being a woman. And she was fighting really hard to change those things. And eventually, NASA changed and they dropped the rule about females authoring papers, females joining meetings. And also, like, during that time, they changed the bathroom rule, and like she didn't have to go 800 meters to the black bathroom. She could go to the bathroom in the building she was in. So, they made a big impact on NASA culture. Okay, let's look at our vocabulary words. So our first word is superior. Superior means higher in rank, class, or quality. And the word quality is important for our vocab word today because we're talking about superior technology. So remember, superior means higher in quality. So Russia and the USA were fighting to make superior technology. And again, superior is here too. Superior spaceflight capabilities. Okay. Our next word is theoretical. This is a pretty difficult word, theoretical. So it means something calculated through theory rather than practical application. What this means is Katherine Johnson was creating math not based on any real experiment or anything. Everything was just a theory. It was just an idea. They hadn't experimented. They hadn't made a real experiment with the rocket. They were just creating the math and hoping that it was accurate and that it would work. And it did, because Catherine's math was so good and so accurate. Next is the word dismissed. This means to be treated as unworthy of serious consideration. So it talked about her white male colleagues dismissed her and didn't think she was good enough. So they kind of pushed her away. They treated her as unworthy. She had good ideas, but they didn't care because she was black or because she was a woman. They thought she wasn't smart enough or not as smart as them. Next is enormous, very large in size, quantity, or extent. I said in the article, enormous contributions to the United States. So in this case, enormous means maybe extent, very large extent, enormous contributions to the United States. Next is supervisor. A supervisor, probably you know this word, someone who directs or oversees the work of others. Another word for supervisor is like manager or boss. So the supervisor controls and directs other workers. All right, and let's look at our discussion questions for this week. Number 1, are there any influential JAXA astronauts that you know of? What are their accomplishments? So basically, I want to know about astronauts in your country, and could you tell me what they did or what they accomplished? Number 2, do you know about any other inspiring African American people, and what have they done? So, of course, I'm asking for famous African American people, and it maybe needs your knowledge of American history or global history. It doesn't have to be African American. It could be African or maybe like a European Black person or something like that. But if you know any other inspiring Black people, please tell me about them and what they did. Number 3. Do you think there is still discrimination happening in the USA or around the world? Do you think there is still discrimination happening? Why do you think so? Why not? And maybe you can just talk about that a little bit. And please feel free to talk about your country as well. Is there discrimination happening in your country? Remember, discrimination doesn't have to be about race. It can be about gender or groups or anything like that. Even like, for example, discrimination towards people from Okinawa or discrimination towards, people that live in Kansai or something like that. So discrimination doesn't always have to be about race. It could be about gender. It could be about age. It can be about just different local groups of people, countryside versus city, and so on. Okay, and let's look at number 4. Katherine Johnson received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Are there any medals or awards that people win in your country, and what are they? So I talked about the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Actually, Barack Obama, the president before Donald Trump, he awarded Katherine Johnson this award for her impact, cultural impact and change that she made in NASA. Okay, and question number 5. These women faced great challenges in their life. What is a big challenge you faced in your life? Please tell me about that. I know the challenges I faced in my life are not even close to the challenges that these 3 women faced at NASA or growing up in the 50s and 60s. However, we all have challenges, big and small, and it would be nice for you to share one of your challenges with the class or with me. So I'm looking forward to your response. I'll answer one of these questions. So let's see. Yeah, how about number 5? So what's a big challenge you faced in your life? Well, I would say one of the biggest challenges I faced was graduating from university. It took me a long time to graduate university because I was working while I was going to university. So my time was split between work and school, and it was a lot of pressure for me. And I remember my what's the name? Like the head teacher for the department of my major. I majored in history. So my history department head had a meeting with me and told me, you plan on graduating next year or after next semester, but you don't have enough credits to graduate. So you need to do 2 more semesters before graduation. But I told her that's not possible. What can I do? I can't wait any longer. I have to graduate because I have plans after next semester. I want to move to Japan and work and be a teacher. And so she told me, well, the only way you can graduate is if you take double full-time classes. So usually you take 4 classes a semester. I had to take 8 classes a semester and work at the same time. This was almost impossible. And the department head told me, you shouldn't do this. It's just too challenging. And it was true. It was a huge challenge, but I did it. I tried it, and actually I got pretty good grades. And I was given an award called the Dean's List Award, where I think I was in the top 10% of grades in the school, in the university. So I was very honored to pass that challenge. And then, I moved to Japan. I could get a job teaching English, and the rest is Mac Sensei's history. But that was a big challenge I faced in my life, graduating from university, and that final, oh, I'm sorry, I should make that bigger. I always forget that at the end. I'm very sorry. But yeah, that was a big challenge for me, is graduating from university and taking double full-time classes, taking those 8 classes and going to work at the same time. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and I wanted to meet my friends and spend time with my family. Whew, those were stressful times. But it helped prepare me and challenge me for future challenges. And now, when I'm busy at work or at school or with family or friends, I can remember this is not as big as a stress as my final semester of university. Okay, guys, that's all for today. I'm looking forward to your discussion answers. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask me. I really recommend watching the movie Hidden Figures, and let me know if you watch it and if it was fun for you. Okay, I'll see you guys in a little while. Goodbye.